You. Yes, you. I'm talking to you. What is poppin'? Your boy is back. In this video, we are going to be going over some possible reasons to why you aren't improving as a tattoo artist. So getting straight in with number one, that being you are not picking the right reference. The tattoos you do will only ever be as good as the reference that you pick. You may tattoo like for like to the reference, but it still doesn't quite have that pop at the end that you want, and that is simply down to the reference that you pick. You need to be looking for reference that really stands out, that really pops off the page. You want to be scrolling down Google or Pinterest or wherever you're looking for your images, and that one image stands out against a plethora of others. Now, sometimes that reference may pop out at you, but it may not be a tattooable reference. And in that case, there is still things that you can do. You can manipulate the image enough to make it tattooable. However, not so much that you change the image completely. Now, this is something that I will be going over in my seminar when it is released. But yes, reference, guys, make sure you pick the right one. Now on to the next, but while still sticking on reference, when you pick your reference and you are tattooing your reference, you need to be breaking down your reference. You really need to study what you are looking at. And this is actually a big problem, and the reason it's a big problem for most artists is we have very limited time to do that tattoo. If you was to draw the reference that you have picked on paper, you may put 100, 120, even up to 150 hours into that drawing on paper. And when it comes to tattooing, you have probably a third of that time. So it's easy to skip over those details, but let's go over to Photoshop and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Okay, so what do I mean by breaking down your reference? Well, here we have Batman, and we're gonna take just a little snippet. So we'll take this nose, for example, and we'll break down this part of the nose on the left-hand side. Now, it would be so easy for artists just to see that and see it as, you know, one, maybe two tones max. And what they will do is they will just bring in their mag and they will get that general tone, and then they will, you know, fill all this area in, leaving this gap coming down here where the lighter tone is. But what we really need to be doing is we really need to be getting in there and breaking it down. You can see that you have dark tone here, you've got dark tone in this bit, you've got the crease there that comes off with some darker tone than all of this. You have darker tone coming down here, darker tone in here, 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 here. Obviously we've got the creases on the top. Okay, you need to be looking for all these things. And then once you put those darker tones in, then you would saturate. However, let's just go with a different color. Let's go with white. You can see that there is a lighter tone here. There's lighter tone coming down here. There's lighter tone here. There's lighter tone here, 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 coming down here. Not just coming down here. So that is what happens when you start to break down your piece. Rather than just going over like we just did, we're going to put all those pieces in. We're going to really study the piece, and that is why having a high level of reference is going to be more beneficial to you, because you can really zoom in. Having a look at this, you know, right hand side of the nose, you can see you have this darker tone coming all the way around here into the crease, and again you have this lighter tone here, another darker tone coming down here, up here, down here, in here. You have lighter tone here, 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 here. So you get the idea. You need to break down your pieces. Really study your piece. The best advice I can give you is, before you even do your tattoo, before you even stenciling your tattoo, just really take a look and study your image before you do anything. Get a good, roadmap in your head of what you are going to do. And then while you are doing your stencil, again, just be thinking about how you are going to execute your piece. But break down your image. On to number 3, that being that you aren't saturating enough. That includes the level of saturation and the saturation of the overall piece. But again, let me show you. So what is saturation? Well, I see saturation as 2 things. One being the level of saturation required, meaning how many passes with an individual tone, and the overall saturation of the piece, meaning everything on the piece has some sort of saturation level, leaving very little skin. Now please don't get mixed up with tone and saturation. Just because a lighter tone can saturate up to a point you may feel it's going into a mid-tone or a darker tone, on the heel it will still drop off to a lighter tone, but with the saturation that was required. Having an understanding of these levels of saturation is key. You may put down a light tone, think that's a light tone, I'm putting light in, but not understanding that that light tone has a deeper level of saturation will cost you. This honestly is more of an advanced level of thinking, so I hope you understand and I'm explaining it well enough. But here's a visual. So the level of saturation would be going over and over with the same tone, just building up until you hit that level that's required for the piece that you are doing. So you can see it's fairly light. We want to use the same tone and just build up a little bit more saturation. Give it another wipe. Okay, I feel like I need to build a little bit more. And you will do this until you hit the level that's required. Now obviously you may be scared about overworking, but if your machine is set up correctly, your hand is correct, your technique is correct, you will not overwork before you hit that saturation level, so try not to worry about it too much. But as you can see, this is just a light tone with more saturation. So again, I will give that just a little bit of comparison to the same tone, but with less saturation. And as you can see, you can barely see it. But these two are exactly the same. This has a less saturation level than this. So there we have 2 levels of saturation with the same tone, so you can see the difference. Now I've created this little square to show you what I mean by overall saturation, how everything is saturated on the piece, leaving very little skin breaks. So we have this square here. Imagine that this is a piece. I know it's hard to imagine with it being a square, but imagine this is just a piece. What we are doing is we are making sure that every part of that square has some level of saturation. And you imagine this all the way through your piece. Those are the 2 types of saturation that I mean. The level of saturation and the overall saturation through the entire piece. Now on to number 4, and that is that you are picking the wrong needles for the job. And those wrong needles are giving a completely different look to what you're actually wanting. So imagine we have this eye. What I mean by picking the wrong needles is it would be so easy for somebody to, you know, bring a nice line coming down here, coming around, you know, the bottom of the eye, like that. Now the line doesn't need to be, you know, thick. It could be done with a 3, all right, but it is too sharp. If we look at the image, there is nothing sharp about the bottom of this eyelid. It's actually quite soft. So in this case, what I would probably do is get my mag, start shading out this way where I see, you know, the shadow of the corner. That will form the softness of this, you know, line where the corner of the eye starts. And then I would start bringing the mag down just to create the softness of that bottom eyelid. Now you don't always have to use a mag. What you could use is a round shader. But when you are using a round shader, it can also be sometimes just a little bit too harsh. So be careful. Keep your round shaders nice and light, build up nice and slow. We don't want a harsh line. So that is an example of using the wrong needle. Also, for the outside of the iris, if you look at an eye, everything about the eye isn't sharp. It looks sharp from afar, but when you really study the image, it isn't sharp, and it has a nice blend on the side of it. So again, think about, do I need to line that iris? Would I use a 3? Or would I just build up with a mag and get that feather around the outside? You can see on this side here, you have the outside of the iris, but then you have a shadow right there. So you would feather on that bit, okay? So yeah, that's what I mean by picking the right needle. It would be so easy. Look at it from afar and not, again, dissect the image to how the image actually looks and just, you know, make the wrong decision. So think about that next time you're tattooing. Finally, on to the last one. You are trying to run before you can even walk. Maybe you aren't sufficient enough in your technique to pull off the piece that you want to do. Maybe you fully just don't understand the tattoo process. This is called the Dunning-Krueger effect, and what that is when you have very little knowledge on the craft, that being tattooing, but that little knowledge gives you a confidence that has you overestimating your own abilities, bringing with it a lack of self-awareness. And you can see this here on YouTube. All you need to do is search like tattoo help or tattoo techniques or something, and you will see that the best videos are always how to shade and how to line. Because artists tend to think that once they know how to shade and they know how to line, that they know enough to be able to get through these tattoos, when they just don't. It is unfortunate, but if you want to progress in this career, you need to sometimes just take a step back and look at it from the outside looking in and really assess where you are at. But guys, if you implement those things, 100% they will improve you as a tattoo artist. If you found this video helpful, as always, give it a like, drop a comment for the algorithm, helps push the video out and all that stuff. Turn on the bell to get notified every time I upload. But guys, I will see you all in the next one. Peace out. Muchas love.